everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddie, and this is my August wrap-up. I read 8 books this month. Pretty decent. As usual, I'm going to start with the lowest rated book all the way to the highest rated book that I read this month, starting with a 2-star. This one was such a disappointment. I was so excited for this book, and I actually had the physical, and I already donated it because I hated it so much. Daughter of the Blood by Anne Bishop. I personally picked this book up because of the comparisons people were making to Sarah J. Maas, saying that Sarah J. Maas plagiarized from this book. I don't believe those people have read this book. At the beginning, maybe in the first 50 pages that I noticed, I was like, oh, that's similar, that's kind of similar. Then after 50 pages, this book took a completely different spin. Nothing like a Sarah J. Maas book. I did read this in a reading vlog recently where I was trying new authors, so if you want to know my full thoughts and feelings, please go watch that vlog. The main reason I didn't like this book is because the main character was between the age of 7 and 12. There was kind of a time jump, but she was young, way too young, and the main 3 men in this book were thousands of years old, falling in love with a 12-year-old. I just couldn't pass that book in my head. The way that they were thinking, because you got the male POVs in this book, and the way that they were thinking about a 12-year-old was disgusting. So I cannot recommend this book to anyone, and I would not recommend this book to anyone. Again, if you want to see all my full thoughts, go watch that reading vlog. 3 stars. I just finished this one yesterday. I listened to it on audio, which honestly, pat myself on the back because I've had such a hard time with audiobooks. The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. This is the most perfect 3-star romance. I really didn't love anything about it, and I really didn't hate anything about it. Nothing mind-blowing, but super lighthearted and fun and easy to get into. I mean, this story literally dropped you right in the middle of a conversation of the 2 main characters starting a dating pact, a fake dating pact. So, I mean, it just dropped you mid-conversation. So I kind of liked that. Didn't waste any time, just got right to the point. But our main characters, Mackenzie and Noah, and they're both shifters, so this is kind of an Omega-verse romance, but very, very light Omega-verse. It's a rom-com. Mackenzie is an Omega and Noah is an Alpha. I haven't read too many Omega-verse books, but I think Alphas can only mate with Omegas. The 3rd act conflict was so predictable, so I definitely think this book would be a good palate cleanser. If you just want an audiobook or a really easy read, perfect. Pick up The Fake Mate. Get into my 3.5 stars this month. The first one being Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This was my first taste at Kennedy Ryan, and I also read it in that new authors vlog. I enjoyed it, and I will be picking up more of Kennedy Ryan's books. There were some things that stood out to me that I didn't enjoy, and I feel a little left out, a little bit of FOMO, because so many people adore this book. And I enjoyed it, and I know why they adored it, but there were some things that I just couldn't get past. One of the main things that I really didn't enjoy was we're watching Josiah and Yasmin recently go through a divorce, and they're co-parenting and running a restaurant seamlessly. Everything's going great. You can kind of still tell through their POVs they still love each other. It is a second chance romance, and none of what I'm saying is a spoiler. It's all on the back. And how Kennedy Ryan did the second chance, how they got back together, I felt was cheapened by smut. I did not think the sex was done in a very classy way. That was kind of the only reason that Josiah and Yasmin wanted to get back together, was because their sex was so good. Yet the therapy and the mental health aspect of this book was so good, and Yasmin was growing so much, and we saw her character development from the beginning to the end, that the sexual attraction to me felt cheap for what the story was trying to tell. I thought this book was so good it didn't need smut, didn't add to the story, if that makes any sense. So I did really enjoy the book. I loved the message behind the book. I loved the restaurant aspect and the food that was talked about in this book, and how food brought everyone together. I mean, beautiful story. Absolutely will be continuing the series, and I'm excited to read more Kennedy Ryan books. The next book. You guys, I did it. I finished Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. It was slow, as I expected. I did not expect this to be the most action-packed, high fantasy book ever, and it wasn't. but I wasn't disappointed, and I think 3.5 stars is really good for a first book. Like, we follow Fitz, who is a bastard to a royal prince, and it's kind of just Fitz's life growing up around all of these royals, and he's not treated very well. He has multiple pet companions because in this world, one of the magical elements is that he can like create bonds and form connections with animals. It took me, I think, over 10 days, which usually I don't read books that slow, but I think with this new fantasy genre that I'm getting into, like I'm into romantasy, but that's not what this is. High fantasy is a completely different genre, and I'm just starting to dip my toes into it. I think you have to embrace the slowness. I'm getting into a 16 book series. I'm not expecting it to be the most fast-paced book ever. And with the future high fantasy books that I want to read, I'm going to embrace the pace. I'm going to embrace that it's going to be slow as heck. Probably not going to really enjoy or be sucked in at some parts, and that's okay. First, well, I've read high fantasy before, but now I'm like committing to the genre. Good first taste. Then we have completely different genre, a little fun rom-com, which I also read in that new author's vlog. Sorry, go watch that vlog if you want to know my thoughts and feelings on all these books. But A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. I had never read a Megan Quinn book before, and I'm so glad that I did. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, which honestly is surprising because rom-coms aren't my favorite genre, but this one really did impress me, especially with the third act conflict. I loved it. Super cheesy, and both of the main characters at times said some really cringy things. I just kind of looked past it. It was so fast-paced and really easy to get into. This is a fake dating book as well. We have Huxley and we have Lottie, who both, again, are mutually benefiting from a fake dating situationship. It leads to more, as fake dating usually does. Another fun palate cleanser if you're in the mood for something that requires no brain cells. This is a good one. But I will be continuing this series as well. It is, I think there are 2 other books because it's about 3 different billionaire brothers, so that's cool. I had 2 4.5 stars, and I want to start with The Briar Club by Kate Quinn. Kate Quinn has not disappointed me. I don't think I've given a book lower than 4 stars from her. Her historical fiction gets me going. I love her historical fiction, specifically her audiobooks. I have listened to almost every single one of her books. This book is set in the 1950s at Briarwood House, which houses 8 to 9 different women. I can't remember how many women. But before we talk about the characters, the way this book opened up was so unique. The first chapter is in the house's POV. It was so cool to have like an inanimate, I can never say that word, inanimate object be the POV. Like, that was such a cool experience to listen to. That chapter just really built the atmosphere for the rest of the book because it's talking about the creaky floors, it's talking about the wallpaper ripping off, it's talking about the sounds the pipes are making. Like, it was so unique. And again, really sets the tone for the rest of the book. It's kind of eerie, but like done so perfectly. Then after that, each part in the book is set in a different woman from the house's POV. So there's lots of different POVs going on, but you're kind of seeing their first experience entering the house and like why they're staying at this house. It's phenomenal. Like, I don't want to even say anymore because obviously the ending was so spectacular. I mean, it wraps everything up so seamlessly. If you want a good story, this is great. In the audiobook, I absolutely recommend. The next 4.5 star book that I read, Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. I rated Forget Me Not by Julie Soto 4.5 stars a few months ago. After reading this one, Julie Soto is now an auto-buy author for me. Gwen and Xander are both music prodigies. Xander is known for playing the cello, and Gwen is known for playing the violin. They're both phenomenal at what they do. Let me just say, I know nothing about music. Zero. Quite literally could not read music, cannot write music. In high school one time I took a music class, and 2 weeks in my teacher recommended that I switch classes. Like, I really could not figure it out. So there were aspects to this book that I just did not understand. Completely went over my head. Totally fine. I kind of caught on. Some of the terms I kind of learned because they used them so much I had to learn them, but they both play in an orchestra, fighting for first chair in this orchestra. Gwen gets first chair, and Xander's kind of grumpy and mad about it. Xander is a black cat energy, for sure. But my favorite aspect of this book, and I actually posted it on my Bookstagram, there was a page, but specifically if you want to read this yourself, on 206, the way my heart, and I was like blushing and so excited for them. Xander might be like a complete asshat and like super black cat energy, just kind of grouchy all the time with everyone and anyone. But like his excitement for music and the way he loves that Gwen plays and like how she plays, it gave me butterflies. Like his enjoyment of watching her play music made me blush. Highlighted the crap out of this page. Like it was adorable to witness like his excitement. The first 200 pages, you're like, oh, this guy is such a grouch. He's so rude to everyone. Like no one likes him. And then you see that and he like shines, and it was such a good moment and beautiful. And you got some cameos from Forget Me Not, which was kind of fun. And finally, we're going to talk about my 5-star read of the month. Are we surprised that it's another Kristen Hanna book? The Women by Kristen Hanna. You just know you have to have a box of tissues nearby. Like she's going to make you cry. This was my book club pick for Patreon in August. It was so nice to have friends to talk about it with. I loved doing my weekly updates and like what I was feeling and what everyone else was commenting and what they were feeling about the chapters. Frankie, our main character, she goes through a lot. She enlists as a nurse in the Vietnam War, and the first half of the book you're with her during the war, so you're kind of seeing really graphic, gory, traumatizing setting. It's so uncomfortable to read. Like it's a graphic book. Then the second half is the devastating homecoming that the Vietnam soldiers received and nurses. Like I felt heartbroken probably 5 different times in this book. So many scenarios and so many things that Frankie went through in her life. I genuinely felt it. Like I felt like she was my friend, and that's actually a big aspect of this book is girlfriends and like the purpose of friendship. And so it was beautiful. Like I'm kind of just rambling right now. I'm not even talking about the plot, but if you want to know my thoughts and feelings, or if you want to read September's book with us, go join my Patreon. The link is in the description below. Next month we're reading Daydream by Hannah Grace. Honestly, such a well-rounded month. I loved August. I really took my time with books too. Like I think The Women took me over a week. Assassin's Apprentice took me more than 10 days. Then the rom-coms kind of sprinkled in throughout. That is it for this month's wrap up. I will see you in the next video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't. Bye. Love you.